Hey everyone! In this video, I'm going to force myself to work outside of the box to create something totally unlike anything else I've ever done, to go against every instinct I have when it comes to creating art. I'm going to color this sketch without line art. There's this trend going around YouTube where you take someone else's tutorial and follow it. It originated in the makeup community and it's sort of spread out from there. In the usual video of this type, the person doing the tutorial has the tutorial playing as they do the thing, whatever that thing is. But I'm a really shy person and didn't know how to reach out to the original artist for her blessing to rip her video off YouTube and use it, so that video is not here. Quick aside, I'm still having issues with my throat, but hopefully my voice comes across as sexy or at least listenable to and not totally fried. The video I follow today is by DrawingWiffWaffles and it is called How to Color Without Line Art. So we'll see how this goes. Not because I doubt her ability to create a thorough, succinct tutorial, I just doubt my ability to work in such a different style than I'm used to. So if this turns out like crap, it's not her fault, it's totally 100% my fault. A link to the tutorial is below, and I highly recommend you check DrawingWiffWaffles out if you haven't. She's a super fun personality with this really cute, dynamic art style with a lot of character and expression, and I love all her videos, so 10 out of 10. Go check her out. In the original tutorial, DrawingWiffWaffles uses Photoshop. In this version, I'm using Procreate, but all the tools she uses are available in Procreate, so I didn't find myself lacking while following her video. As a disclaimer, I am sure I've probably watched this video before because I've been following her for a year or so, and I know I binge watched a whack ton of her videos when I found her, but I honestly can't recall any details. She has almost 250 videos on her channel, guys. I can't memorize them all. Okay, so with all that out of the way, to the coloring. As I get started, I'm going to show this footage in real time so you can get an idea of what I'm doing. In the tutorial, she names her sketch, so I've done that. She sets it to multiply and then lowers the opacity. The sketch I'm working with is actually from Inktober of my cute witch character previously seen in my Galaxy Witch piece. The fiddling you saw me doing was trying to fix a hand I wasn't happy with, and in doing so, part of the sketch ended up darker than the rest. Because I'm a genius like that. So my sketch is lowered and raised in opacity depending on where I'm working. I create a new layer for her skin and name it as such. I doubt anyone is, but on the off chance someone is curious, the keyboard I'm using is called SwiftKey. It lets you drag your finger across the keyboard to quickly fill in a word. The same feature is on most Android devices automatically, which is why I ended up looking for a similar app for my iPad. In the original tutorial, DrawingWiffWaffles uses the lasso selection tool to first select and then fill in the face. It looks great in her video, but I don't know if it's just because the image I'm using is a lower size. I went with 6x8 or something like that so I would have a ton of layers since I knew I'd need them. Anyway, my selections were coming out super choppy and I didn't like how that looked, so I eventually began deviating from the tutorial. But for this first part, I totally tried my best. Once the skin is filled in with a flat wash of super saturated color that doesn't look anything like a skin tone, I fix that in a few moments, don't worry. She then drags the sketch layer to above the skin layer. It's already set to multiply, so the lines show up on top of the skin layer and I can see my original sketch to better place the color. I'm just gonna speed up the skin getting filled in since it's more the same. I actually should point out that I watched the tutorial as I did all this. I did not first watch it and then create my art. That way I knew everything would be more or less in order with how she did things. So another deviation, in the original tutorial, lines are added very sparingly to add detail or differentiate where, say, fingers meet fingers, so it's not just a huge glob of color. And I put all mine on separate layers so that I could easily change them if I wanted to, even though that doesn't really make any sense. Realistically, this probably added more work since I had to erase and play with the lines, so I would follow how she does it in the original tutorial. And here's where I started filling in the skin differently. I've sped up this footage too so you can better see the changes being done to the hand as I work on it. This would be easier to show if Procreate had a cursor. In the tutorial, you can use the lasso selection tool to build up the shapes so they're more accurate, but because my edges were so choppy and it was bothering me so much, I started building up my shapes with my pen tool instead. Later on, I start lining where the shapes will be with the pen tool before filling them in with either a hard brush or the selection tool, depending on my mood. For the record, I don't think this is one of those things that affects the outcome of the art too much. It's really just personal preference. After the hand was done, I touched up the head a bit, and I'm just zooming through that too, because now we're going into the face, which is really just me inking her face kind of the way I always do. This is slightly sped up since it's a lot of me being finicky about things, and I'm sure that's only entertaining for so long. In hindsight, I wish I'd changed the line color on her iris so it isn't such a harsh black, but I do like how her lips and nose turn out. In the tutorial, there are very subtle gradients used to add a bit of depth, so it doesn't just look like cut-out South Park characters, which I do later towards the end of working on the art instead of as I'm going. Why am I telling you this? Because at this point, I screwed up and forgot to record the rest of the painting. I paused here, I went to go get some food, I sat back down to work, and I could have sworn I hit record, and you'd think after so many instances of having this happen to me, I would know to double check and make sure that I actually am recording. But nope. At this point, I was just really enjoying the process and getting in the groove, so I just didn't check. The last bit of footage I have is this part where I fill in her choker. And now we're going to have to switch to my footage from the actual Procreate drawing, so I'm really sorry for the shift in how things are going to look. I'm not really sure why I turned off her skin layer as I did her dress, since her clothing layer is on top of her skin, but here we are with a ghost. You can see I started using the method I mentioned before, lining the outline of the shape before filling it in with chunks using the selection tool. A lot of this method of coloring feels a bit like chiseling and building up and sculpting, which was a nice change from my usual outline entire piece with inks and then color inside the lines approach. Which I guess I should explain, in case you're new and you've never seen my art before, I create illustrations with strong line art. I have a lot of influence from comic books and Art Nouveau, influences that you can spot better depending on the art piece, but even so, this style of working is entirely new to me and entirely different from how I usually work. And I really enjoyed it. For a number of reasons. For one, I used so many different layers, whereas normally in Procreate I'll only have 6 or maybe 8 max, so I'm constantly merging and committing to what I've done. Just in case you don't know, Procreate has an unfortunate maximum layer cutoff depending on the file size. But with this piece, I just kept making layers. I didn't have to merge, I didn't have to commit to anything I did. If I wanted to redo something, I could. It was beautiful. That's more because I purposefully kept the file smaller so I could have all those layers, but I do think I got to experience that because I tried this tutorial and this art style. I usually work in this really huge size with Procreate, and I'm not sure why I bother. There's no reason why art should be any bigger than 300 dpi. It's not really going to affect how it prints that much. Yet I work in 600 dpi regularly, which is honestly just overkill. For scanning something into a computer though, 600 dpi is great. It scans ridiculously huge, but it allows you to edit and fix issues with your traditional art before you resize it and get it all ready for printing or web or whatever. I'm not too proud to say that another reason why I really enjoyed working like this is that it went by very fast. I mean, it went by so fast I didn't even notice I wasn't recording the second part. It didn't take very long to create a full illustration in this style, and maybe it feels flat and simple in comparison to some of my other pieces, but I really like how it looks. It feels more graphic than my art has ever been before. I feel like it's a style I've added to my arsenal that I could use again in different ways, or add onto to create something wholly different. I also went with a very different palette than I usually do. Often I lean towards very jewel tone colors like purples and blues, and I almost did that with her hair before I changed it to a forest green. The colors are very warm in the end, which isn't something I use a whole lot. If I do use a green, it's normally on the cooler, more turquoise side. I probably could have pushed the color and effects further, but I didn't want to stray too much from the original tutorial, which doesn't have a lot of highlights or shading. And here is the finished art. I hope I did this tutorial justice, even though I feel it turned out kinda different, hopefully not in a bad way. Thank you to DrawingWiffWaffles for giving me an excuse to leave my comfort zone. As I mentioned before, the original tutorial and her channel is linked below in the description box. This was definitely different from what I usually do, so I'm interested to hear if you've ever worked in a style like this, or if you'd like to try this tutorial yourself. Comment down below to let me know. Of course, please subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and give it a like also. It really helps me out. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you Friday for another video. Bye!